They caught the virus and beat it. But it was a tough battle. The struggle, the fight back, and the triumph. Incredible survivor stories. To hell and back.
Over the past several weeks, many of us have had mini scares. Many have actually passed away on account of COVID. Some went to hell, quite literally, and then they came back. For them, we have this series which we are calling Back from the Brink. And back from the brink because these were people who are very close to death, or they saw death and they've come back. And it's important to speak to them and listen to their stories, because these are stories that hold out hope. Hope that there is light at the end of this very dark COVID tunnel. So what we're going to do on this edition of the Newstrack is listen to some of these stories. Stories of what all can go wrong, stories of what did go wrong, but then also those same stories have hope. Hope which each of us can clutch on to in these very, very dark times. So on that note, I want to introduce the guests joining us for this special broadcast, starting with Rohit Rajpal. He's a former India tennis player, coach, member of the Bharatiya Janata Party. His whole family had a very bad bout of COVID, and I'll let him describe his story. Also with us on this broadcast is Saurabh Bharadwaj, one of the well-known faces of the Aam Aadmi Party, member of the Legislative Assembly in Delhi, and he too, that video asking for oxygen from inside a hospital, really rang bells and sent shivers down people's spine. We have with us on this broadcast Paridhi Sharma. Paridhi Sharma is a well-known actor. She's been in Jodhabai as Jodha Akbar, also been on various TV shows, and she had to stay away from her young son as she went through COVID, and she'll explain her journey. We have with us on this broadcast Himani Shivpuri. She's a Bollywood actor and TV star. She'll explain her story. And Shikha Malhotra, who's an actor but also served as a nurse at the Hindu Hriday Samrat Balasaheb Thackeray Trauma Care Hospital in Jogeshwari in Mumbai, and she'll explain how she went in working as a nurse and what she saw there. So I want to go across to Rohit Rajpal first. Rohit, first explain your journey. Explain why you think you and those in your family are lucky to be alive and that you're back virtually from the brink. Tell us what happened.
Around the 23rd night, I started to not feel very well myself, and obviously I suspected myself. I couldn't sleep the night. Suspected that I had also contracted I think corona, and sure enough I got myself tested, and the next day itself also I started to show signs. I had fever, and I locked myself in immediately, and from there on it was just it was really an unbelievable experience, because it all happened so fast that while I got busy trying to help out all my staff, trying to make kits for them for medicines and all that, and my virus load when I started was not so high, and I thought that I spoke to my doctors and they started me on Fabiflu and some other vitamins and ivermectin and whatever they could give me, and I really thought that I'm strong, I'm fit, and I should be able to fight it out and get well at home. And so anyway, got busy with trying to help out my staff and everything else. And by the time I knew, in about 4 to 5 days, a couple of them, the first guy who was infected, he started to feel very unwell and started frothing from his mouth. And we sort of, with a lot of difficulty, managed to convince all the others to get him to a hospital. We were trying to go all over the city trying to get him into a hospital. We couldn't, everything was full. Finally, they found one place where, they could get him in. I was on the line trying to push everything. And believe it or not, when they brought him in, they said he's already dead. And that was such a shaky experience for the whole family that within 6-7 days, this guy is like a family member to us. He's been with us for 25 years, got 3 young children, that he passed away. And I knew at that time when he said that looked like we were all in trouble, because this strain, if it killed somebody within 7-8 days, it's got to be very aggressive. Spoke to the doctors. They said that, listen, you must immediately get yourself in a hospital, and whoever else is feeling unwell. So we scrambled as much as we could. We could not find hospitals. We could not find beds. My brother, my family, they started to look around. My condition started to deteriorate very, very rapidly, and breathing started to become an issue. I was alone in the room. I was trying to call a lot of people, anybody that I knew in the city who could get me a bed where I could get some help. But hours passed, days passed, and I could not find a room or even a bed anywhere. And people kept saying, we're trying. And
this is when you're in the ruling party and you have better connections in Delhi than most people, and yet you were struggling in this way to find a bed for yourself.
Rahul, I'd like to leave actually the party out of all this, because it is such a honestly, the political part I'd like to leave. I mean, I've just had such an experience that I just like to sort of let me share my experience.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
More. So it was from there on, Rahul. It was every hour was getting difficult, because I just could not breathe, and I was holding on to something, and I was my eyes were getting red. I was not getting enough oxygen, I suppose, in my brain. And at the same time, I was trying to be on the phone, trying to see if my people had made it to the hospital one by one, and that I would not lose another person, in this meantime. And in the meantime, I had also asked around. I have a lot of doctor friends, and they had suggested that I immediately find myself remdesivir injections, knowing the fact that this was an aggressive form that I had picked up, infection. And I started to scramble for that as well, along with the hospital bed. And God bless my ex-brother-in-law, Fardeen, from Bombay. He found a friend who had a box. He was in the pharmaceutical business and had a sample box lying with him. We somehow managed to get it in Delhi. And I also knew, Rahul, that my father was exposed to this guy, and sooner or later he would show signs. It was I was trying to save these injections for my father, because he was older, and I thought maybe I'll fight it out, and I'll make it. But really, every hour got difficult. I started to really actually feel shaky and maybe lose hope. Till the second evening, I got a call from another very dear friend of mine, God bless him, Mr. Satish Upadhyay, who's a dear friend of mine, and he called me and said, Rohit, there is one bed available. And by that time, Rahul, I think another 4 hours later, I was actually seeing stars. I actually was not getting enough air, and I was seeing maybe that I'm going to fade away at any point. I was alone in the room, so it was. I was kind of giving up hope that I just can't find a room or a bed. And in the meantime, obviously, I was not trying to look at the TV, but I was hearing that there's no oxygen anywhere. And it was. I can't explain the feeling to you, Rahul, that I thought I was going to go, Rahul. I really at one point, and then I get this call saying that there is one bed. Immediately leave. My brother started knocking on the doors hard, and I couldn't get up, obviously. So they called out and they said that they found a bed, that we have to move immediately and all that. I tried to get up and make it to the car myself, but I couldn't breathe, Rahul. And so I said, I definitely can't make it there without some oxygen. I need oxygen. In the meantime, my brother had found somebody locally who had some small little old cylinder filled with little bit of something. And now the question was to find an ambulance. And they could not find an ambulance. And with a lot of difficulty, people running around and everything else, they found one small ambulance which could fit in that or connect to that cylinder or something. And they managed to do that after 1 or 2 hours. And I started to further fade away. And the only thing I asked for, I was ready to move, and they were ready to move me. The only thing was asked for was to see my family.
Stay strong.
And that
Stay strong, Rohit. Take your time. Take your time.
I thought I'm seeing my family and my children for the last time. I really felt that, And anyway, I broke down. I was in the ambulance. I don't know what to expect. Couldn't breathe. And somehow, holding on to things, we just made it to the hospital. And they obviously put me on all kinds of stuff the minute I got in there. And God bless Sister Deena, Dr. Chakar, Dr. Roy, all these people. Rahul, I can't tell you, I had COVID, and obviously it was scary for these people because they were putting their lives at risk, but they were so brave. All these sisters, they came, they helped us. They never made me feel that there was something wrong. They really made me strong. Obviously, I felt that the oxygen was not there, and I was asking them, so oxygen. They put it was quite slow, but it was just enough to hang on and breathe. And I was holding on, trying to breathe and stay alive, Rahul. And then somehow in the morning, these doctors, it was a very difficult night. I mean, I didn't know whether I was going to make it, not make it, whatever. And next thing I heard that these doctors, my brother told them that we had these injections, and I was not taking them. I was trying to hold on and save these injections to save my father's life. And then I could hear faintly my very dear friend, Dr. Shamshed Dwivedi on the line, trying to call me and shout at me. And then Dr. Yadav Chakar telling me that this virus is too strong. It's going to kill you. You better take it now, the injections, now. And my doctor friend, Dr. Shamshed, started to tell me that you're going to die in a few hours if you don't take this injection. We'll find something for your father, just take it. I decided to take the injections at that time because my father at that time, I didn't get any news of any signs of him coming, so maybe I thought it'll pass. So I took those injections. And a day or two later, of course, in the hospital, my family didn't want to tell me, but my father had picked up fever at home, 101 fever, and she started to show signs. And then they didn't want to tell me, and they wanted me to stabilize first. And then got news 2 days later that my father was infected. I started to again call everybody and beg them for some of these injections, and believe it or not, from the hospital, struggling with still breathing and all of that, I still found, God bless, a couple of other people.
You want to tell us about how difficult it was to get oxygen, Rohit?
So, it was without oxygen, you mean, Rahul?
How difficult was it trying to arrange oxygen?
The hospital had to arrange it, Rahul. We could not arrange it. We called people. We could not find any oxygen. We could not find any oxygen machines. There was all kinds of stuff going on, all kinds of stuff. The ambulances were charging 3 times. I was told for my people also. The remdesivir injections were available at 60,000 rupees a bottle instead of 3,000 rupees. But you did not know whether they were fake or they were not, whether they were real or fake. I mean, all kinds of real nonsensical things that your worst nightmare came true, that you could not even imagine in your life, that you could experience something like this, and that also in the capital of our country, Rahul. So yeah, I mean, I've been in the hospital along with my father. I was lucky to again wait for a few days, and obviously found another bed and moved my father there. And we were there for 15 days. We just got back 2 days ago.
Well, we're glad that you're back.
We're very happy to be alive.
Glad that you're getting better.
Yes.
And glad that you're back from the brink. Saurabh Bharadwaj, आपने अभी रोहित राजपाल की कहानी सुनी, and this is across. This is nothing to do with which party you belong to, how famous you are, how many people you know, or who all you can call. In the way the whole system collapsed, you were in the ruling party, in the government, and yet you're sending out these desperate messages, pleading and begging for oxygen. Why don't you tell us your story of coming back from the brink, sir?
Rahul, I think every day, I change my logic, like what advice should I give to people regarding COVID? Because every new experience I get, or I get to hear from people, I change my advice, and I think there are very general things we can say about COVID, and there are too many exceptions to all the examples. And I think, for example, I'm alive, Rohit is alive, and when we talk about our stories, sometimes I feel that it's nothing about me, that I made it. It is just a chance that I made it, and I think all the people who experience corona during a particular window. For example, in Delhi, I can say the window could be somewhere like 15th or 16th of April to, let's say, 5th of May. That was a very desperate time. Because a lot of people were suffering from COVID. Oxygen availability was low. A lot of people wanted oxygen, which we were not getting. And I think if you fall sick during that window, you are really unlucky, because you will scramble for anything and everything. You will scramble for hospital bed, you will scramble for medicines, remdesivir injections, you will scramble for oxygen. And when I tell that story that, I came alive, sometimes I feel that, it's not right to brag about my story, because a lot of people, lost their loved ones. And sometimes I feel that, this is not much. I feel they'll feel sad that they lost their loved ones. A lot of people lost their parents. A lot of people lost their sole bread earner in the family. A lot of people lost their sole bread earner in the family. And I think, like Rohit explained, when you are gasping for oxygen, so basically oxygen is something, which gives you life. It is something which is keeping you alive. And the moment that oxygen supply starts coming down, because your lungs are not able to pull enough oxygen from the normal air, because normal air has oxygen, but your lungs lose that capacity to pull it. You need external source of oxygen, and that is life. And you gasp for oxygen. And when you don't get oxygen, you start, you can feel that, you are coming near being a non-living entity. And when you enter a place called ICU, it is a very strange experience for somebody who has never been to a hospital, because there are a lot of patients around, there is a lot of beeping sound. The whole day and night, the lights are on. The nurses, the doctors, you can always hear them, because they are always attending one patient or the other. You don't see your neighbors, but you hear about. For example, I had a neighbor. She was some auntie. I could always hear her voice for 1.5 days, and after 1.5 days, nurses got saying that ये 69 वाली body को हटा दो, 69 वाली dead body क्यों नहीं हटाया, जल्दी हटाओ. So you are in a kind of a shock that, you have been hearing a lady, and I think because you were hearing her, that means she was quite well. And One day, next day, she is a dead body. And Rahul, very strange. And the most dangerous aspect about this strain of corona, this second wave of corona, is its unpredictability. We in this 2021 are used to predictable things in our lives, everything, whether it's a metro, whether it's our office time, everything. We have kind of planned everything around our lives. We cannot deal with unpredictability. And this virus is so unpredictable that you don't know how it will affect you. And we as humans, we always believe in a best case scenario. So I was healthy, I was young, I didn't have diabetes, hypertension, I used to go exercise in the gym. So I thought I'm not the one, who will be affected with corona. I thought I've been waiting for corona. I was under the illusion that if I'll get corona, everybody has to get corona. So I'll get corona, I'll get sick for 5 days, I'll have, some cough, some fever, then I'll be okay. So I didn't expect that this corona can get into your lungs. And from the common knowledge which I had from various WhatsApp information, or you read from newspapers, was that it doesn't affect people like me. And the only notion I had was, if your oxygen comes down, then only you need you need hospitalization. I did not know that if your fever is not coming down, you are in a high fever for 6-7 days, you have to go to the hospital, and you should now think about it. So I think I was sheer lucky that my family was in contact with Atishi, and Atishi was smart enough to tell my family that this is the time we should go to the hospital. And I've been, just delaying it. I was thinking, नहीं मेरे को hospital नहीं जाना, कल देखेंगे. And next day, I again had a high fever, and I said, okay, मैं hospital जाता हूँ, मैं test कराऊंगा, test करा के आ जाऊंगा. And मैं खुद अकेला एम्बुलेंस के अंदर बैठ के शेव वेव करके गया. And I was feeling कि मैं क्यों एम्बुलेंस में जा रहा हूँ यार, but because I didn't want anybody to take along with me, because I was positive, my brother was not positive, so I thought कि मैं चला जाता हूँ. And the day I landed in the hospital, they did run some blood tests and CT scan. They said it's very bad. And from that day itself, in the evening, oxygen started falling. And I didn't know that it was so bad, because doctors were not telling me it's so bad. But when I saw Twitter, and when I see some WhatsApp messages coming from friends who spoke to probably somebody else, who spoke to my doctor, they said, probably you are dying. And I was in a shock, because I myself never believed that, I'll die of corona. I always believed, whenever I was in ICU also, I thought, I'll not die with corona. Yaar. Corona se koi na marunga. So, but it's a very strange experience. And not just my experience, Rahul. Just 2 days back, I was helping my friend. He's a dear friend, and I just helped him get into a private hospital. And he was talking to me on WhatsApp, कि मेरा ऑक्सीजन गिर रहा है, मेरा ऑक्सीजन गिर रहा है. And I was talking to his MS, कि इसका ऑक्सीजन गिर रहा है, इसको क्या करेंगे? They said इसको ICU चाहिए, हमारे पास ICU नहीं है. And I said, if you don't have ICU, just put him on BiPAP machine. They put him on BiPAP machine, and he was with me on WhatsApp. My oxygen is still falling, and we were looking for an ICU for him just 2 days back. We found an ICU for him in a next hospital, which was like 6 kilometers away. And we have an ambulance. And I am talking to the doctor. The ambulance doctor is saying he cannot shift him because his SpO2 is 45. He'll collapse in the ambulance. And the doctor is saying that no, he'll not collapse. Just take him to another hospital. He'll get an ICU. He'll get a ventilator. And when I spoke to his doctor is saying, sir, अगर यहाँ रहेगा तो भी 2 घंटे में collapse हो जाएगा. And if you try to take him into ambulance, तो भी हो सकता है ambulance में collapse हो जाए. But there is a chance कि वो वहाँ पहुँच जाए. And I was the one who was supposed to take decision about his life. कि मैं क्या करूँ? And we took him in the ambulance with a ventilator, BiPAP machine to another hospital. Somehow he made it into another hospital. He got ventilator. He was just 36-year-old. He was on WhatsApp with me. He waved to me, that night. And then he collapsed in another hospital. So I felt, this is such a disease where you're talking to a person, because in this disease, it's only your lungs which stop working. Your brain is working, your heart is working, everything is working. You're on WhatsApp, you're talking. You can send messages about your SpO2, but you cannot breathe. And I was telling him on WhatsApp, Rakesh, breathe. Breathe patiently. Breathe like a music. Patiently breathe. Breathe. We are all here. We are trying to help you. And he died. He just slipped from our hands. It is so hard to believe, this damn disease, gets into your lungs. It kills you. So this is very unpredictable disease. And I think that's why it's very dangerous.
I'm sorry for what you had to go to, Saurabh, and the fact that you're sharing your story and the unpredictability of the virus, the fact that you could get the virus and be fine and wonder what the fuss is about, or you could get the virus if you're fit, you're a marathoner, you exercise, and yet just be struck by the virus so badly. Shikha Malhotra is an actor. She's a trained nurse. She in fact helped out at the Hindu Hriday Samrat Balasaheb Thackeray Trauma Care Center in Jogeshwari East, and then she had a very bad bout of COVID herself. And I want her to tell us her story and tell us why you feel, Shikha, that you're back from the brink.
First of all, I feel so glad and proud to all the nurses. Whenever I hear or somebody says that it's not possible without nurses, or nurses are doing immense hard work tirelessly, because जो लोग कोविड से गुजरे हैं, जो लोग हॉस्पिटल्स में हैं, रहकर आए हैं, जिंदगी मौत से जूझ कर आए हैं, उन्हें पता है कि कितना हार्ड वर्क लगता है. आई माई सेल्फ बीइंग अ नर्सिंग ऑफिसर अपनी एक्टिंग करियर को छोड़कर आई जॉइंड हॉस्पिटल्स ऑन 27 मार्च 2020. मुझे याद है 24 मार्च को हमारे प्रधानमंत्री जी ने जब अनाउंस किया कि लॉकडाउन है, तो आई जस्ट वेंट आउट ऑफ द स्ट्रीट्स इन मुंबई विद ऑल माई डिग्री. मुझे लगा कि किसी और चीज की या किसी और बात की जरूरत नहीं है. व्हेन इट्स कंट्री लॉकडाउन, आई थिंक इट्स अ सीरियस अलार्म दैट इट्स अ ग्लोबल पेंडेमिक और देश को हमारी जरूरत है. एंड दैट्स हाउ आई डिसाइडेड टू जॉइन द हॉस्पिटल. क्योंकि मेरी मम्मी जो रिटायर्ड नर्स हैं, वो जुलाई तक उन्होंने भी 2020 जुलाई तक उन्होंने 60 इयर्स की उम्र में बिफोर रिटायरमेंट उन्होंने सर्व किया है कोविड पेशेंट को. शी वाज ऑलरेडी वर्किंग इन मार्च. तो मुझे ऐसा लगा व्हाई टू सिट एट होम. मेरे पास एक हथियार है और मैं जंग के मैदान में जाने से रुकूंगी नहीं. तो मुझे लगा कि ओके लेट्स गो. और मुझे बहुत अच्छे से हिंदू हृदय सम्राट बालासाहेब ठाकरे हॉस्पिटल में वेलकम किया. उन्होंने मुझे कहा सैलरी का कोई प्रोटोकॉल नहीं है. आई वाज जस्ट टेलिंग देम दैट प्लीज लेट मी जॉइन माय फैमिली. I just want to be there for the country right now, then and there, because I have this degree and I think for this day I did this education. I always used to fight with my mama, क्यों कराया मुझे ये when I'm a classical singer or dancer, an actor, a painter, writer, ये nursing क्यों कराई मुझे. She always used to say कि wait and watch, कुछ भी बेकार नहीं होता है जिंदगी में. And that day I realized, oh God, this is the day already God has written my name in the golden words in the fighters for the country, and I decided to join. पहला दिन COVID ICU, पहला patient 7 महीने का baby Mohammed. My heart was sinking, seeing Mohammed there, fighting for life, जिसकी जिंदगी भी शुरू नहीं हुई. And then and there I decide, okay, राहुल, मुझे कभी डर नहीं लगा. मैंने हर पेशेंट को, मुझे ऐसा लगता था मैंने किट पहनी है एंड आई एम टेकिंग ऑल माय प्रिवेंटिव मेजर्स. मुझे हर पेशेंट से गले मिलना था, हर पेशेंट का हाथ पकड़कर उसे बोलना था, डोंट वरी, आई एम हियर. इफ योर फैमिली इज नॉट हियर, माय फैमिली इजंट हियर टू. मैं भी अपने घर वालों से दूर हूँ. मेरे पेरेंट्स दिल्ली में थे और घर में आती थी, घर और हॉस्पिटल पूरे घर में अकेली रहती थी मैं, क्योंकि इन्फेक्शन किसी और को ना हो जाए. सोसाइटी में भी बहुत प्रॉब्लम्स हुए हैं, लेकिन इन सब चीजों को फेस करते करते जब वो 7 महीने का मोहम्मद थोड़ा सा खिलखिला जाता था, तो मुझे लगता था ओके, दिस इज इट, फॉर दिस थिंग आई एम कमिंग इनटू द हॉस्पिटल.
So you also had the virus and you had apparently quite a bad bout of the virus and you were hospitalized. Tell us about that.
Bad. मैं जैसे जिस तरह से मेरे साथ कुछ ऐसा हुआ कि आई थिंक मैं कुछ उन अनलकी लोगों में से थी जिनको कुछ एक्सेप्शनल सिम्टम्स थे, पैरालाइसिस जिनको हो रहा था कोविड की रिकवरी से. कई केसेस ऐसे चल रहे थे कि आपकी बॉडी पैरालाइज्ड हो रही है और ऐसा सुनने में आ रहा था. हमारे पास कोई ऐसा केस नहीं था बॉम्बे में, पर जिस तरीके से जितना बुरा ये देखना था ना कि आप किसी की केयर कर रहे हो और अगले दिन आपको वो बेड खाली दिखे, तो वो फीलिंग मुझे महसूस हुई जब मैं खुद कोविड 7 महीने आईसीयू में, कोविड आईसीयू में लगातार डे एंड नाइट काम करने के बाद मुझे अक्टूबर में कोविड हुआ. कोविड से मैं रिकवर होते ही दिसंबर में आई गॉट राइट साइड पैरालिसिस अटैक, जहाँ पे मेरा जो फेस था वो राइट साइड डेविएट हो गया, पूरी तरह से टेढ़ा हो गया और मेरा राइट साइड का जो हिस्सा था वो बिल्कुल काम नहीं कर रहा था. मतलब टिपिकली जिसे हिंदी में लकवा मारना बोलते हैं. So I was one of the unlucky patients who had this unexpected symptoms. So it's very difficult to speak all of that again, because being into ICU, having that rice tube in your nose, not being able to see your loved ones. ICU की मशीनें जो आपकी कानों में आवाज करती है वो they tells you that you're going, and I had no chance of recovery. So sitting here talking to you, being alive is a blessing. I think शायद वो सभी लोगों की blessing है. I can't explain the pain, Rahul. कितनी तकलीफ, कितना दर्द आप झेलते हैं जब आप ऐसी सिचुएशन में होते हैं. That's why we say to everyone कि एक दूसरे का हाथ कसकर पकड़ने की जरूरत है, because I mean you're not used to face so much of pain. आप इतना दर्द सहने के लिए तैयार नहीं होते अचानक. और मुझे ऐसा लगा था कि मैं कोविड से ठीक हो गई हूँ, लेट मी गेट बैक टू माई. कोविड के समय पे भी जब मुझे पहली बार कोविड हुआ तो मुझे मेरी शुगर एकदम 20-30, इट वाज सो ऑकवर्ड. लोगों की 600 जा रही थी और मेरी बिल्कुल लो थी. सो आई वाज इनटू द रिस्क ऑफ गोइंग इनटू कोमा. लेकिन वहां से रिवाइव होने के बाद आई वाज ऑल सेट कि मुझे फिर से हॉस्पिटल ज्वाइन करना है और लेट्स डू दिस, लेट्स डू दैट. एंड 10th दिसंबर रात के 10 बजे आई गॉट दिस फुल बॉडी पैरालिसिस अटैक, द राइट साइड पैरालाइज अटैक. एंड मुझे ऐसा लगा ओके दिस इज इट, आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू मेक इट अगेन. बट my personal nurse, my mother was there to take care of me, and I don't know how am I sitting back in front of you again. The nurses and doctors are working tirelessly to give you your life back in your hands, and it's really difficult to work in PPE kit for hours and hours without having food, without drinking water. It's really difficult to digest that. You don't know, you can be आप कभी भी कोविड पॉजिटिव हो सकते हो और आपको आपके घर वालों को देखने को मिलेगा या नहीं. आप कब अपने पेरेंट्स को देख पाएंगे. आईसीयू में जाने के बाद वापस जाना, जबकि मैं खुद एज अ नर्सिंग ऑफिसर में देख चुकी हूँ कितने केसेस की आईसीयू में एक बार आप चले जाते तो इट्स रियली डिफिकल्ट टू मेक इट अगेन. एंड मेरे लिए वहाँ होना, ऐसा होना वाज नाइटमेयर तो बहुत छोटा शब्द है. इट वाज समथिंग वेरी स्कैरी. आई जस्ट आज भी मैं सोचती हूँ कि काश मैं किसी तरह भूल जाऊं उस दर्द को. आज भी मैं सोते उठ के बैठ जाती हूँ. आज भी मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मेरी आंख खुली और मैं आईसीयू में हूँ. इट्स नॉट इजी टू कम बैक फ्रॉम देयर, कम बैक टू दिस नॉर्मल स्टेट.
It's a horrific story, I have, my hair are standing on the head as you narrate that story. It's such a deeply moving story of fear, of anxiety, and coming back from the brink. Himani Shivpuri, you were in hospital as well. We saw the posts that you were putting out. Do you want to tell us the lessons you learned and your time spent inside hospital and what all you saw happen around you?
Well, when I actually, since you said, there was after a lockdown, when the lockdown reopened and we started shooting again. So, I was initially very scared because, this is the first time for 5-6 months I'd stayed at home. Otherwise I've been working constantly since the time I started out from National School of Drama, doing plays and then TV, films, and then back to, I was doing a daily soap, Happo Ki Ultat Paltat. There was this situation, and I spoke to my son also, who also happens to be in the same profession. He says, Mama, it's not only you, but it's the other people, the backstage people, the costume walas, everybody's livelihood is involved. So you had to go back to work. So the time, going to work was really scary. And, with mask and the shield, face shield, and, washing your hands constantly. I was so careful. And, but when we were shooting, we had to take off our masks. And then how it happened was that I started getting, I got fever. So, I never thought any of it because I was so careful. So I took a crocine and I went to work because, daily soap, you got to shoot constantly. And then morning, there was no fever. When I would come back, there was fever. And I remember I said, I've got a fever. So I took my crocine again. And next day I went to work. And slowly, I think it was getting a little worse because I started feeling more tired. My body was aching. But then it didn't strike me. Then I had to do an ad for Ford, and which was really difficult. I had to report at 5 o'clock in the morning. And even then, I was so careful, spraying everything and keeping people at a distance, and packed up very late, around 8 or 9 from 4 in the morning, a very, very long time. The next day, I started feeling very weak and tired. And then when I had my breakfast, I started getting loose motions. So then I was feeling so weak. I used to just give one shot and come and sit in the makeup room. And then I told that the director and the scheduler, I said, I'm so weak. And they could make out because, I just couldn't remember my lines, which I really do my lines and I give a one take. I like to give one takes. So, I said, I just cannot. I was feeling so weak. So, I said, listen, after four scenes, I said, I can't work anymore. I think, please let me go. So they sent me back and I spoke to my doctor. I said, I've been having fever for 3-4 days and my body is aching and I'm getting loose motions. So my doctor friend, Meena Prabhu, she told me that you isolate yourself in the room and get yourself tested. So I called the lab and I was tested. So that night, after the test, that night was really terrifying. I felt all sorts of symptoms that I couldn't breathe. I didn't know whether I was going to be corona positive or negative. It was a nightmare. It was so frightening. And I was alone in my room. I didn't allow anybody to come. I used to tell the maid to keep the khana there. And my son also, my son would come. I said, no, get out of the room. And the report didn't come the next day. It was supposed to come. But then I realized it came the next day. I got a call from, in Mumbai, everybody knows about it. The BMC is very, very effective that way. They're very, everybody's praising them. So, they sent my report to the BMC, my zone. So I got a phone from a BMC doctor. He says, Himani Shivpuri, corona positive. So for a minute, everything stood still. But, it was a relief that, now I know I'm corona positive. So he says, because I had comorbidities, I was diabetic. He says, you will have to get myself. I said, can I be isolated in the house? He says, no. This was September. This was the peak of the first wave. And nobody knew very much about COVID. This is no, it's better that you get admitted. So then the scramble to get, that time, all the hospitals, there was no place in the hospitals. I'm calling up few of my doctors' friends. My producer is calling up doctors and they're trying to, I stay in Andheri. So I said I would prefer a hospital which is close by. I was imagining that khana lekar aayenge. I had been hospitalized before ki koi khana mere ghar se leke jayega. So, at least I'll eat good food. So, the nearby hospitals were Holy Spirit and Seven Hills and there was Santa Cruz and of course Kokila Bhen. So, everybody is trying everywhere here in Andani Hospital. And then that zonal told me, he says, you send your son to Holy Spirit in the morning. So when my son went, they said, there is no place. Sorry. And he left this thing. He said, जगह होगी तो हम आपको बुला लेंगे. So there was this time to get a room and this thing. Fortunately, I got a call around in the afternoon that there is one room. We'll give you a room. So in Holy Spirit Hospital. So my son drove down. He left me there, and I bought lots of tea, whatever I could. My kettle I took, and as if I was going, and I had been to hospital before because I had got a major this thing of food poisoning, and I had also had the first stage of cancer. But my son was there that time with me. But going to a COVID hospital in your room, after a certain point, nobody can come. So you're isolated. So, and in that room, and I said, oh my God, there's no AC, there's no TV. We are so, imagine, we are so used to these things. I said, oh God. But anyway, I said, well, the nurses, we have a nurse here. The nurses all in their PPE kits, and they were there, and they were setting me up with my medicines of Favicru and the other medicines. And I was in constant touch with my my doctor friends. They said they're giving me this medicine, they're giving me that medicine. Is it okay? So one doctor friend is asking me, ask them to get your CCT done, your X-ray done. So when the next morning the doctor came, and it's a very this thing that you're all alone in this room, and the food, hospital food, and whatever, hospital food is bad, but COVID your sense of taste just goes away. So it's extremely sad. And I realized that no food could come from home, because my son and my everybody in my house was isolated. They were also quarantined, so nothing could move from my house. And I had a dog, so there was this problem. Our society had very strict rules for dogs. Dogs can't go. We can't go. And my dog, I was undergoing my own COVID, but I was so worried about my dog. I would call up the society office. I said, please let my dog didn't go. She didn't relieve herself for almost 2 days. And I was trying to get in touch with, animal activists. And we were fighting that what is this rule. So finally we said, we proved it after 2 days that dogs do not carry COVID.
Okay.
So we would just leave him at the door, and we got a dog walker to at least walk, and then she went and relieved herself. And I was and my society secretary is telling me, you concentrate on yourself. Why are you thinking of your dog? I said,
but that shows the love that you have for the dog.
It sounds very funny.
No, sure.
And then I had my CCT done, my scan done, and I realized that it had penetrated my lungs, so they put me on to steroids. All this. I hate, but I've always had this. I hate needles. I am so scared of them. But all these needles fluids were injected, but still, second day I remember I was so bored, and my friends were calling me up. So my batchmate Ashok Mishra, he's also a screenwriter. He's written all Shyam Babu's films. So I said, "Kya karu yaar? Bore ho rahi hu, kuch nahi hai. I can't even talk to anybody." Doctor log bhi dur se haath hilate hain, aur nurse bhi, they're the only ones who came and gave me my injections and stuff, but they're all in PPE kits. मुझे लगता है मैं किसी स्पेस पे कहते कोई बात नहीं, अपने एक्सपीरियंस की कविता लिख दे. So I quickly on the second day, I think it was Hindi Divas, I quickly wrote a poem challenging Corona.
पढ़ के सुनाइए अब आप हमें. Can you read it out to us, please?
Okay. कहाँ से आया बे, किधर से आकर चिपक गया बेताल की तरह मुझ पे. एक कोरोना, ओ कोरोना, भाग बे. मैं हार न मानूंगी, न घुटने टेकूंगी. अब तो तू पकड़ा गया, अब तेरा पता चल गया, तुझे न छोड़ूंगी, जड़ से उखाड़ फेंकूंगी.
That's
So,
awesome.
I was in fighter mode. I said, I'm going to get rid of
No,
this.
and I think that's also inspirational to listen to for everyone who's listening in at this time. And the last story on this broadcast is that of Paridhi, and the bit that I want her to focus on is about her son. She has a 4-year-old son who wasn't corona positive, and for a young mother to have a son who's okay, but you can't really isolate that son, he can't be by himself, you're isolated in the pain of being away from your young son when you're dealing with the virus. Tell us a bit about that, Paridhi.
Yeah, actually, that was the most challenging part because my son is 4.5 years old. And when I was tested positive for corona, I literally started crying because I knew that I have to isolate myself, I have to quarantine myself in the room. Me and like my husband and I both were corona positive. And I was so tense and worried that how things will be managed. And thankfully, with grace of God, my brother-in-law, he was COVID negative. So he took charge and he literally took care of him. But as a mother, every day was challenging because I know that my son is there downstairs. But we were so shocked, knowing the fact, the way he reacted. He behaved so maturely. I don't know how he did that, but he was following all the protocols more than us. And, that's the way universe helps you if you are dealing with some problem and situation. I don't know from where he got that strength that he literally didn't bother me and was actually waiting for the time when I'll get negative and can go to him and hug him and kiss him and cuddle him. So yeah, that was literally a moment where which no mother would ever want to face in her life, which I did. But I knew that a day will come when again I will be with him, but this is the time we have to restrain ourselves with him. Like we need to protect him. That's my priority at the moment. So I have to control all my motherly emotions and have to wait for the right time. And with grace of God, we all got cured in home only. And the day when I went, he finally asked me, "Mama, can I touch you now?" And I still remember that moment when we actually, hugged each other after so many days. And still I was getting frightened of kissing him because you don't know the virus. I don't know, it's been said that 14 days, if you have no symptoms, you are perfectly fine. But still I had that worry and that I was scared that I should not get a lot close to him. But yeah, now it's been a month's time and everything is back to normal.
The reason that we had such a cross section is because you're seeing stories of immense pain, anxiety, fear, near death. You're seeing stories of being distant from a very young loved one. And you're seeing stories from Rohit, from Saurabh, from Shikha, from Paridhi, of coming back, living to fight another day. And it is this hope that we must cling on to as individuals, as a collective society, as a people, as a nation, because soon, hopefully, there will be light at the end of this very dark tunnel. I want to thank all our guests who've opened up on camera, shared their very personal, distressing stories, in the hope that others hold on, as Saurabh Bharadwaj said. You don't know what to say, you don't know what to hold, because for every person who's alive, there are those who passed away, and they are in our thoughts, our prayers. And we wish you all the best, and thank you very much for joining us on this edition of Back for the Brink.